yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is still on assignment, and he won't even answer his phone call. With that being said, we're going to keep moving forward. We'll make sure that he is A-OK. We also have Charles Bishop. He's running a little behind schedule. He said something about the Houston traffic. But with that being said, we're still going to bring you a show. We do have a producer, and we have none other than Brian Fulford. So he's going to come in and provide us some updates and great HBCU talk. You're used to seeing Brian on Sunday evenings. He's doing a little overtime work, so I got to make sure that I save up my coins so I can send him his way to say a nice thank you and make sure he can enjoy his weekend the right way as he watches some baseball, whether that is in person or watching it online like some of us enjoy to do. This week, baseball is here in Texas, in town, both Prairie View and, if you would, Texas Southern have games. So we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. So we'll get out there and see some live action. With that being said, welcome to episode 656 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large, small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Brian Fulford. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer in a beautiful home at Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, let me bring in Brian Fulford. Brian, how are you doing today?
Doc, I'm doing okay. My voice is a little weary right now. It's a little tired, but
is that because you were cheering or booing?
Neither. Probably more fussing than anything. Probably more fussing. Hashtag teacher life, right? I don't know.
Hashtag teacher life. I wasn't going to ask, but you volunteered, so I appreciate you.
Yeah.
With that being said, today's episode of Inside the HBC Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, a company that provides sporting, educational consulting, and data analytics. With that being said, Brian, won't you jump us off and let us know about the news of the day? What's on your mind?
I'm gonna start in with the softball titles. I'm not sure that you guys got. I don't know whether you got into this on Tuesday or not. I'm still catching up on podcasts and shows and everything. But I think we officially know in the SWAC that Prairie View has claimed the SWAC West title with a 21-3 conference record under the direction of head coach Vernon Bland. They claimed the West Division 1 seed in the upcoming SWAC softball tournament, which will be May 6th through the 9th at the Gulfport Sportsplex in Gulfport, Mississippi. And if I'm not mistaken, Doc, this is not unfamiliar territory for Prairie View softball, if I'm not mistaken, right? I believe, I don't know how many years in a row that they have won the West, but I believe this is at least the second consecutive year, is it not?
Yeah, that is correct. They have regularly been at the top of the conference for the divisions and usually make pretty deep runs in the tournament. And then a couple of years ago, they were able to take on the championship. Behind them was Texas Southern, but everybody else has kind of struggled to make hay in terms of their third or fourth seed. Alcorn broke through last year, made it deep into the tournament, really into the championship game, where they just couldn't quite do enough to get it done.
Right. And then over on the east side, my beloved Florida A&M University Rattlers, under first-year head coach Brittany Beal, who we had the pleasure of talking to last night on the O&G Strike Zone, which airs every Wednesday night right here on the network. The Rattlers won the East Division with a 19-5 record. And so this is the second year that FAMU, of course, we're only 4 years into the SWAC, but second year in a row that we've won the East. And so I'm really excited about this team. And, you know, funny thing, Doc, is as hyped as we were about last year, I think this team might be a little bit better than last year because the pitching is better and the experience is a little more. So I'm optimistic, very optimistic, but you know, I know how tournaments can go. And so I got good feelings, and I'm gonna just kind of keep them in my pocket.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm in the second segment. I want to take a deeper dive. I wanted to get into the discussion about the Eastern and Western Division. You know, we can't do that any longer for the West. We can kind of talk about what took place, and I think it's become a little obvious in baseball that it lived up to many people's intuition and conjecture at the time, thinking that the East was stronger than the West. Sometimes they kind of played out in the tournament to one degree or another. But with one division thus far, as we are in the second half of the season, this week's standings has the top three teams out of what was the Eastern Division at the top of the conference. So fascinated that where you do have a couple of teams right behind them, though, out of the West. But it'll be interesting to see when everything concludes, what does that look like? But we can still have fun with softball, debating back and forth the East-West Division. I want to get a little bit of your thoughts there. So I'm glad you gave us that update in terms of the East and Western Division. We got two A&M programs getting it done, one in Prairie View, one in FAMU. We'll see if they can get on that collision course and pay for a championship, or will we have the proverbial upsets in the tournament and see somebody come out of the loser bracket and have the other team come out of the winning bracket for a championship game. Want to give a little love FAMU tennis to open NCAA tournaments at Athens Regional in terms of the women's. Alabama State on the men's side, they will end up in Knoxville Regional, and that is this weekend coming up. So it'll be fascinating to kind of see if we can get any upsets by the Rattlers or the Hornets on the tennis side. Also got to go over there to the MEAC. South Carolina State secures its sixth consecutive women's tennis championship, as they have that on lock, it seems, but they will draw Auburn as they are moving forward. And that means on the other side, South Carolina State men's also claims the championship, as we said before, which is the fifth championship, and they draw North Carolina State. So it'll be, again, interesting to see, can any of these HBCU programs at the Division I level get a upset, preferably in terms of the seeding, at least, in these tournaments. I'm going to go back to you and let you chime in. What's some other things that may have you excited in terms of HBCU news?
That's a dynasty, by the way. I think that qualifies when you win 6 in a row, when you win 5 in a row. That's a pretty good dynasty.
That's the truth. That's certainly a dynasty. When you can go over a decade, at least past the halfway mark of a decade, we can check that off. And when you do it on both sides, you talking about it's a program dynasty, not just on one side, whether it's men's or women's.
Yeah, they figured something out over at South Carolina State, so props to them. I do want to make mention and give some props while we talked about softball earlier and we were into the MEAC. Got to give some credit to Howard University. Howard University, the Lady Bison, won the 2025 MEAC softball regular season title earlier over the weekend. They only needed to beat Norfolk State, who was in second place once, and they happened to do that twice over the weekend in a doubleheader by scores of 10-2 and 7-3. Turns out it is the first, and talk about history makers, the very first regular season title for Howard University in the MEAC. Howard has been a part of the MEAC for how long? I mean, they've been playing softball in the MEAC since, I want to say the 80s, maybe, the late 80s, early 90s. But the wins over Norfolk State, the Bison improved their conference record to 19-1, which also set a new program record for conference wins in a season. Howard is currently 25-17, riding a 19-game winning streak.
Wow.
Damn, that's tough. Dating back to March 29th. So, congratulations to Howard. They're the number 1 seed heading into the MEAC Softball Championship, which begins May 7th through the 10th at the Norfolk State Softball Field in Norfolk, Virginia. So we'll have a pair of softball tournaments happening next week in the SWAC and MEAC. So should be some good Division I softball for us to follow next week, Doc.
Good stuff, good stuff. I do want to give a softball update since we're on it. SIAC. When you talk about the SIAC, you have your lone non-HBCU program in terms of getting it done for a championship on that side of the ledger with Spring Hill bringing home. And this is back-to-back for them. So you're talking about building on dynasties. We'll see if they get it done in terms of what they're doing, but they will represent the SIAC on the softball side of things as they continue to get it done on that side of the ledger. So I want to give a little love for the SIAC in terms of what they're doing on the softball side of things. Some people thought going into that tournament was Tuskegee, but as the record would say, Spring Hill says, the Badger says not so fast in terms of what that looks like. So I want to get a little bit update on that side of the stuff. I'm fascinated by this before we get in to take our first break. 2 HBCU programs earned Emmy nominations. This is coming out of HBCU Game Day. I've seen this live. I've seen the first one when they talked about Southern University. They landed what you call the Waves in Television for Digital Media Landscape, earning Emmy nominations for powerful video storytelling that celebrates the campus culture, legacy, and creativity. The Southern one is when they captured and did a story on Southern's band. The Alabama A&M one was these little video shorts, and they were hilarious. I saw them. I never would have thought about the fact that you could get an Emmy in this, but I thought they were hilarious. I don't know if you've caught any of these over the period of time. Well, there was one video that really caught a lot of people's attention and went viral, obviously, where the father comes in and talks to the son. The son is on his bed, and you have the Alabama State, Alabama A&M thing. Dad comes in there with his Alabama A&M shirt on, but he looks at his son, and his son has the Alabama State shirt on, the Hornets shirt on. His son, I want you to meet my new son. And the other son just kind of looks up. You can tell he's like, I got no brother. What are you talking about?
I've got to see. Where was I when this came out in the fall? Did these come out in the fall?
Yeah, he's on social media. So you just Google it up. You'll find it. So you can put in there Alabama A&M shorts. Emmys, I'm sure, to certainly come up. And so then you look, they pan to the son. He's a little shorter, right? They pan to him. He has his Alabama A&M shirt on, cap on, whatever. And he does this little nod. And you're like, oh, this is funny. It will have you cracking up. And you can't help it. But shout out to them. Both of them doing great work and getting recognitions that they should. We always talk about HBCU programs utilizing the story, and these were both done by students on campus. So they're very talented, and they showed out and took advantage of it. With that being said, let's take our first time out. We'll come back on the other side. And as I said, we'll get into a little more talk, give you some updates. The HBCU baseball tournament is going on. The SIAC tournament is going on. So we'll give you some updates there and get some talk and see what Brian thinks a little bit about the SWAC softball tournament coming up in terms of the East West Division, and maybe a nod even to the MEAC to see if he has any predictions on that side as well. We should have Charles Bishop coming in on the other side also. With that, we'll look at our first break. Be right back.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of experience to make your vision a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's pre-game meals for student athletes, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural tastes, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal uniquely yours. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at cmjeventsllc@gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404-664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, so we have none other than Brian Fulford. So with that being said, let's get in here. Let's get some updates from the baseball side of things. Fascinating to see what's going on here. When we talk about the HBCU AC, that top tournament is in North Little Rock, Arkansas, and it's gotten underway. When you talk about what's going on those sides, you have the proverbial number one seeds jumping out and doing what they are supposed to do, as you have Talladega getting it done as they defeat Wilberforce. 9-0 shut them out. Didn't quite get to the 10-run rule, but they were there. When you talk about that stat line, you had Talladega with 9 runs, 8 hits, 0 errors. Wilberforce had 0 runs as they were shut out, 6 hits and 4 errors in tournament time. That is challenging. Then you had the matchup. That was a 1-8 matchup. You have your 4-5 matchup where Dillard got it done over Voorhees. Much closer matchup there in terms of Dillard putting up 4 runs on 6 hits. They did have an error. Voorhees had 3 runs, 9 hits, but they had 3 errors that made it challenging. So Dillard moves on in terms of that matchup. The next one featured Stillman in Suno, which is a 3-6 matchup in terms of what was going on there. In that matchup, you had Stillman with 5 runs, 10 hits in 3 errors. Suno was able to put up 8 runs, 9 hits, but did have 1 error as well. So Stillman moves on in the winners bracket. Suno wins on in the winners bracket. The last matchup was a 2-7. That is Wiley, the Wildcats over Russ, Bearcats getting it done there. 2 versus 7. Wiley wins 10-4, putting up 10 runs, obviously, on 10 hits, 2 errors. Russ put up 4 runs on 8 hits and 1 error. So you saw that going on. Things to push forward. You have a matchup that will feature Talladega Tornadoes versus Dillard. You have Suno and Wiley Wildcats to open up things. Those is matchups there that Suno and Wiley will be at 8:30. And Game 6 will follow that. We have the loser bracket. Voorhees was 2 in barbecue, as they like to say, as they lost to Wilberforce. So Wilberforce should survive in advance. They will play at 3:30 on Friday. You have a matchup with Stillman and the Bearcats to see what takes place there. So we'll keep you updated in terms of what news takes place. So we still have what I'm interested in seeing. I want to see the matchup that features the number 1, 2 seeds. That's what I'm interested in seeing. So Wiley is doing a part. Talladega is doing a part. We will continue to see if we can get that matchup Friday at 7 p.m. They have some additional work to do, though. That's Wiley has to find a way to get past Suno and Talladega over Dillard. We shall see. Of those matchups, anyone you have a little concern on in terms of you got a upset, so you got 6 versus 2, but then you do have that 1 versus 4. Charles, any thoughts, or you think we're gonna be good to be able to get to Friday to see the matchup that I want to see?
Yeah, I think we can get to Friday because both of those teams, they can just knock the cover off the ball. I mean, we saw Wiley up close when they came out here and really were going nip and tuck with Texas Southern for a while, up until about the 6th inning, and Texas Southern bats really kind of crunk up at that point in time. Bullpen game for both teams. But when you take a look at what Wiley is able to do, Wiley is able to put their bat on the ball. So I'm really looking forward to that particular game against Talladega. Talladega, if I'm not mistaken, Ocampo is a young man. He's hitting over 500, but he's a tremendous stick. I remember him from the Black College World Series, and just one of those guys you couldn't keep him off base.
Yeah, very talented. Brian, your thoughts? Do we have any problems getting to Friday? Will I get the big matchup? These 2 30-win teams, will they fight it out? At least semifinals, see who gets to get to a championship?
Well, you got Suno that's already had pulled 1 upset out.
That's true.
Knocking off a 3 seed. You know, they're playing with house money going into the game against Wiley. You know, I didn't get a chance to pull up the series history, you know, on how they played during the season. But I think whenever you can get a win under your belt, it'll give you a little confidence, especially when you win a game that maybe you might not have been predicted to win. So it's pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, you know, I'd love to see chalk. I'd love to see chalk there and get that 1 versus 2 matchup for a right to go to the championship game.
Miguel Oropeza, that was the guy I was talking about. Get this, Doc. He's hitting 508, 10 home runs, 69 RBIs. He scored 80 times this season. Oh, and he also has 26 stolen bases. So.
He said, "Oh, by the way."
By the way,
he can do that too.
Stats.
They faced off on the 19th. When you talk about that matchup, they're in the same division, April 19th, so not too long ago. You had Wiley sweeping Suno. First game was 7-5, close matchup. Second game, 12-10, pretty good game as well. And then the third one is when they were able to really get them in a 10-run rule shortened game where they won 11-1. So they swept them, but 2 of the games were close. To your point, Brian. Can Suno keep up with that magic foot, if you would, in terms of what's taking place there? Let me give you some updates over here in the SIC. We gave you a little updates on that matchup, but I'm fascinating to see as that tournament is underway. We do have a couple of games that were played. Early on, you have Savannah State defeating Benedict, high-scoring game, close one though, 11-10. Savannah State moves on as the 3 seed over the 6 seed. Then you had a 7-2 matchup. Edward Waters brought out the bats to take it to Tuskegee, 10-1. So you'll have that game tomorrow at 6 o'clock versus number 2 and 3, which is fascinating. That's Edward Waters, Savannah State. We'll see how that goes in terms of that matchup. You have a Spring Hill College versus Lane. That game should be underway, but I do not have any updates for you there. The last one up to get out of there is Miles versus Albany State. That's a 4-5 matchup, while the Spring Hill College versus Lane is 1-8. So halfway in that early tournament phase as things kick off there. In the loser bracket, that means you will have an elimination game between 6 and 7, Benedict and Tuskegee. Somebody's going to get a chance to do the 2 in barbecue on that side. Any thoughts in terms of the SIAC tournament, Charles, in regards to looking at matchups? Again, I kind of like the fact you got this matchup between Edward Waters and Savannah. They've had some good games early in the season, so they're going to find a way to match it up again to see who gets that early one. You got to lean that 1 versus 8 Spring Hill. Probably going to find a way to get it done. Then the Miles and Albany State could be an interesting one. Albany State has gotten better at the second half of the season, unless Miles can get it going as they've had in the past. But they've kind of had a down season for their what they're used to doing in the past. So not much there. 2-3 matchups, Savannah State, Edward Waters. That's the one I want to look at.
Yeah, I think, and I'm very curious as to see who can challenge Spring Hill. And if it's any team, you talk about Edward Waters, you're talking about a 33-win team. That's the kind of a team that I'm just keeping an eye on. I think Savannah State, they're right there. They're 29-12 coming into the tournament, so they're all almost a 30-win team as well. So you got some quality baseball over in the SIC. So who can challenge Spring Hill? And again, tournament, we talk about it all the time. Who has the arms? Or who is that one person that you didn't see that gives you 4-5 strong innings and just turns the momentum in the tournament? I think over the past couple of seasons, we've seen it now from Florida A&M. We've seen that from Grambling over in the SWAC, where you have a pitcher that, you take a look at the ERA and it's like, oh my goodness. And then all of a sudden they have this start out of nowhere that's, where they go, 5, 6, 7 innings. And really it's a momentum builder.
Brian, I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to give you a little more. That matchup between Savannah State and Edward Waters, give you some numbers there. That game was played in Savannah State earlier. That was a March game. So we just saw it not too long ago. It was a Friday game and then a doubleheader on Saturday. Coming out of the chutes, Savannah State lost at home 8-3. So Edward Waters were able to get the best of them. Then they turned around. And then that doubleheader, the first one to kick it off on Saturday, you had Edward Waters that takes the series early, 7-4 with the victory over Edward Waters. Savannah State. Edward Waters over Savannah State, I should say. So Edward Waters took 2 out of 3 because Savannah State did fight back and get that third game as they win a close one, though, 9-7. Give you some indication. These teams are pretty close. When I see 2-3 series games relatively close when you get in a tournament, to me, that's not a big marker, but give you a little indication. Anyway, you want to hedge your bets? Since you like to talk about those numbers, Edward Waters, Savannah State, anywhere you going? Neutral site, tournament?
Well, neutral site, 2 out of 3s. Edward Waters, 2 out of 3. I will say I will not be surprised to see a lot of runs in this game, though. Okay. I think if you look at you had 11 runs in game 1, 11 runs in game 2, 16 in game 3. If not that they do this at the Division II level, especially Division II baseball, but if the number was 8.5 or 9.5, I would take the over in the number of runs because I think there's going to be some runs in this matchup between these two. So that's the angle I would be looking at. But you've got to. I think the advantage is going to fall with Edward Waters, and it'll be up to Savannah State to get off to a good start and then hold them off.
Good discussion, good dialogue there. I did want to get a little bit into this before we flip the page and get back into some SWAC baseball. get your thoughts on some of the leaders, top 5 people in these various categories. We'll do that in the next segment. Want to show a little love to the softball side. We talked about early in the intro segment at least who won. In terms of their division, as Prairie View A&M winning the Western Division back-to-back years. They're usually at the top. And FAMU fought their way out of the East. Charles, you are under the framework where you see the East being stronger than the West? And I'm talking about top to bottom. There not be a lot there.
Yeah.
Certainly, then the second part of that, is it any difference really at the top of the division, even if one side may be stronger than the other?
Yeah, no difference to me at the top. When you talk about the top 1, 2, 3 teams, there you can get some fireworks in terms of what might happen in the tournament. But I think, that's a hard one to say overall. The East is stronger. When looking at some of the teams over there, I think, obviously FAMU, Jackson State's had a little bit of success in terms of what they've been able to get done. So I would probably lean slightly to the East.
I get it. Brian, same question for you. I think you've been one of those people that have picked on the West Division, so I want to see if you're standing strong on that, or are you going in a different direction?
I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just looking at the data, and the data says you usually have one team.
That's a smart way to do it, at least to make people back off.
That you have one team that dominates everybody else. I mean, look at the difference in first to second. It's about an 8-game difference. 8-game. When you win a division by 8 games, that is called a blowout. That is a curb stomping, a mollywop, whatever little catch adjective you want to use. But look over in the East. You've got a 4-game difference between first and 2 teams, second and third. 2 teams tied for second that were 4 games back. And then you have the 4th place team, which is 5 games back. So your entire top 4 teams in the East are within 1 series, maybe 2 series of being, right there with the first place team. And you've got a distance of a mile between first and second and third and fourth in the West. It's time for the SWAC, to balance it out. First off, the fact that you only played 24 games. Okay, let's start there. In the Eastern Division, you don't even play each other, or West. You don't even play everybody twice. So you have an unbalanced divisional schedule. Okay, bad. Strike one. But nowadays, where we walk into this tournament and we're supposed to, the East-West, if the East teams win, you get second semifinal matchups featuring, not all the East teams will win because probably somebody will have to go through Prairie View, right? But you're going to get a matchup somewhere along the line in the semifinals between 2 East teams. Where's the fun in that? We beat each other up all during the regular season, probably twice, and now we got to go do it again. Come on. It's time for the SWAC to open up the doors. First off, allow for some equity here. Just like, inclusion, equity, just like we do in baseball. You get to play 10 opponents. Let's get 10 opponents in softball. And then we go to
the United States. That's a dirty word right now.
I was about to say, you trying to DEI out some softball?
Look at these folks, man. Tell them what kind of charges, you're going to disappear. You don't want
to mess around
keep playing with these folks.
Prison somewhere. Yeah.
I just look.
We won't even be in prison in the U.S.
Here's the thing. Here's the exciting part. We can use baseball. This is the great thing about what baseball has showed us in the SWAC. We can actually have some intelligent conversations about who will get players and the awards and things like that. I can wear my orange and green cap and shout all day for FAMU, and somebody can shout all day for Prairie View. We have no idea who really is the best hitter, pitcher, because the stats are skewed per your division. But I think when you get a chance to play 90% of your conference, right, then I will have no complaints or issues with anybody who gets an award in the SWAC. You won't hear me talking about, oh, you guys aren't looking at the stats correctly, blah, blah, blah. Nope, I can't argue it, because guess what? Everybody is playing 10 opponents, and everybody's playing, so it's going to be about as equitable as it can be. We don't have that in softball. Shame that we don't. And but again, I know that the schedule is shorter, right? That part I do understand, that the softball tournament is happening literally 2 to 3 weeks before the softball. So unless there be some major changes to when the conference season starts, we are in the situation we are. But I still would rather A, move away from divisions, and B, at least give the teams an opportunity to play maybe 9 opponents, out of the 11.
Then you're gonna get people mad because now you talk about the fact they're taking away the non-conference games, so you're gonna get beat up on one side. I do like what you're saying, actually, but I just wanted to put that out there.
But some teams in the non-conference, some teams are stacking games against Division IIs and NAIAs, and so I mean, look, even the non-conference isn't really legit. So I can go look at overall records and say, is your overall record really as good as it is? Nope. Because you're playing NAIAs and D2s, and I get it, but whatever.
Most of the teams that are stacking themselves against Division II and NIA programs, they're not at the top of the conference, so that's a whole nother.
Okay, well, then this year it doesn't apply.
Right, that's a whole nother discussion. Well, I was talking about more of the fact that you do have the softball teams playing in like these tournaments. The one particular is a big one in Georgia, where they get to play some MEAC competition, and
which the SWAC owned, by the way. But that doesn't seem to matter to some people's polls, because they still have a team from the MEAC ranked in first when they lost to practically everybody in the SWAC, and the SWAC beat up the entire MEAC. I mean, literally, every SWAC team beat up a team in the MEAC, but somehow the best team in the country is in the MEAC. Like, get out.
How you really feel, Brian? You so ambiguous already.
I told you my voice is this way because it's been a tough week, Charles. My voice is this way because I've been, so I'm fired up.
I appreciate the energy.
Yeah, Doc, he set me up. He knew I was gonna get like this. He ran me right down this road to get me fired up. That's all.
Hey man, don't blame that on me. That's you need to go see the movie.
I came in peace today, and Doc wants me to choose violence.
We got the movie out there, sinners. All of us sinners in some parts. So with that, we'll take our second break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get back into some baseball talk. This time we'll look at the SWAC and see if we can get Brian fired up on this. In terms of these statistics, maybe not so much because now it's statistics with everybody playing everybody. So a little truer at the top. That being said, stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KeaversVoice.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop and Brian Fulford. With that being said, I'm going to jump right back into it. I'm going to give you WAC Baseball Players of the Week, and then we'll get into the top 5 competitive stats and see where you all want to go with that. Starting off with, we have co-hitters of the week. We're going to go one Bethune-Cookman Wildcat and then a Southern Jaguar. Jesus Vanegas is the co-hitter of the week, along with Cameron Bird. That's Bethune-Cookman Wildcats and the Southern Jaguars. Vanegas continued his hot streak at the plate this week against USF and UAPB. He collected 5 hits, 6 RBIs, a double, and a home run. Also, co-hitter of the week, as we said, was Bird. Bird finished the weekend with 6 hits himself, along with 5 RBIs during the Jaguars' 3-game series against Mississippi Valley State. I'm going to hold up on the pitcher until we get into some of those stats, but I will get in terms of the newcomer of the week, Evan of Texas Southern University, was 5 for 11 at the plate with an impressive 454 batting average as he drove in 4 RBIs, Charles, and scoring 3 runs. So it'll be interesting to see what he does this weekend as he's hot right now. Speaking of who's hot, look at the top 5 in terms of batting average and home runs. I'm going to start out with number 5. Maybe a little surprise to you here. We got some Delta Devils. Eric Williams with 389 batting average. And then you have Tanner O'Keefe, also of Delta, the Delta Devils, Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils, to be exact. That's 392. Then we get into those guys over 400. Starting with Trey Rutledge, he continues on his trail. He's doing what he does in the 3-spot. Trey Rutledge at 402. In Alabama State, Juan Cruz is pulling out the lumber. He's batting 418. Cardell Thibodeau still is batting a whopping over 450. That's 455 to be exact. Let's talk about those that have the power. Starting with Gramblin's on at number 5 spot was Cameron Hill. He has 11. And number 4 is Jesus Vanegas. As you saw, talk about him player of the week. He has 11 home runs. Texas Southern University's Damian Garcia with 13 home runs in that 3rd spot. And the 2nd spot is a Bethune-Cookman Wildcat, Andre Martinez. He has 14 homers on the season. And then Cardell Thibodeau at 15. He has 1 home run. I'm going to ask your thoughts on this. Can you lead the conference in batting average, home runs? And as Charles said on Tuesday, it may come down to the last weekend series. If Southern somehow does not make the tournament, or will it just maybe be based on that tournament? If they get in, even at the 8th seed, or don't get in, can you still be the offensive player of the year, hitter of the year, if you would? If you're leading in batting average, home run, especially now, to your point, Brian, that everybody played everybody, so he did it against everybody, although maybe it wasn't enough to help his team, in this case, maybe even make the tournament. I know it's early for that, but I want to get your little thoughts on some of these stats and where you are in terms of the leader of the pack in terms of offensive player of the year or hitter of the year, if you would. Starting with you, Brian.
Well, I think yes, most certainly you can be the offensive player of the year, especially as you said. Now that everybody plays relatively 90% of the conference, and B, baseball has always been a sport about numbers and statistics.
Sure.
Now, if you were to look at Thibodeau versus maybe somebody else, and then go to a stat like runners or batting with runners in scoring position, and using and even RBIs, I would rather look at a runners batting average with runners in scoring position versus RBIs. But using those stats is maybe a alternate stat, as saying, okay, if I were looking at let's just say Thibodeau versus maybe a young man, Andre Martinez, who's second in the conference in home runs. I don't know what Martinez's batting average is. Obviously, it's not in the top 5, but maybe it's top 10. That might sway me. That might make me think differently about giving Thibodeau the award. But I think you can certainly give Thibodeau the front runner. Like I would put him at 2-1 right now. Put him at 2-1 to win it right now because he's going to continue to hit. He's going to get looks, and baseball is just a game about numbers. And I think individuality sometimes is a good thing when you're rating somebody, and especially if Southern gets in as the 8th seed. If Southern does happen to get in as an 8th seed, like I don't know where they're at I haven't looked at the standings just yet. Is that it on the shot up above? Yeah. So Southern is sitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they're sitting right at the 8th seed right now. So he's the favorite. I think Thibodeau should be the favorite.
Good stuff. In terms of your point, Andre Martinez is exactly at the 10th spot, hitting 376. So he hits that threshold that you say is important. So good point. When you talk about conference stats only, he's at number 10. Charles,
I would put him at 3-1. I would put him at 3-1 then. I would say he's right there behind him, right about 3-1.
Nice. Good stuff. Charles?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, how many years did we take a look at Barry Bonds being one of the best hitters in the league, and he's playing for the Pirates? It wasn't going nowhere. So, I mean, yeah, we absolutely gotta give him his credit. I mean, he can only do so much. He's doing everything he can at the plate, but we can't penalize him for his pitching staff being what they are. Giving up runs consistently. So, absolutely, yes. Mm-hmm.
I like that. Very, very good point. Well, let's take one more. I'm gonna do stolen bases. Just want to get your hot take on that. We'll take a break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll go more offensively in terms of pitches, looking at strikeouts, ERAs, and wins. But before we do that, taking our last break, look at stolen bases. SWAC love doing it. When you look back and you look at the Negro Leagues, stolen bases has always been a part of the game in terms of the SWAC for sure. At number 5, Sergio Rivera, 27 stolen bases as he grabs the bases. At number 4, you have a Southern Jaguar, Jacoby Ratliff, with 28. Then at number 3, you get into the 30 mark, those that are doing 30. And that's Trey Rutledge. It's an interesting one you want to sneak at now. Trey Rutledge batting over 400, and he has 30 stolen bases.
He's doing everything. Yeah,
he's doing it. Then you have number 2, Jordan McClatty, 35 himself in terms of taking those baseball pads, if you would. And then number 1, Bryce Hughes is picking them up, putting them down, and he is taking no prisoners in terms of taking those bases home with him, as he has 43. He's eclipsed the 40 mark. He's at 43. Charles, I'll stick with you. Let me know what you talk about when you talk about the game within the game in terms of getting those stolen bases. Oftentimes, that is pushing a runner over in the scoring position. And when you see with some of these batting averages, home runs, that can go a long way, particularly with the batting average, being able to get somebody else and getting your RBIs up there. Charles?
Yeah, I mean, speed is such a threat within this conference. Not only does it force the pitcher to kind of keep an eye on the base runner, but it kind of gets him out of rhythm, man. And we see that on a constant how everybody in this conference they have 2 or 3 guys that can, once they get on base, they're going. And it makes the defense really have to be on edge. And I love that about this conference in terms of, the way everyone can play small ball, and it's about moving runners over. So definitely getting a runner on, that lead runner on and getting them over to second, it can turn the momentum of an inning in a heartbeat.
Good stuff. Brian.
After looking at these and seeing where Rutledge is, and then I went in and I peeped on the SWAC site, and I'm looking at Rutledge Rutledge is leading the conference overall stats in terms of on base percentage. I gotta make this a 3-man race, Doc. I mean, I'm glad you brought up Rutledge. Rutledge is definitely in the mix for offensive player of the year.
I'm glad you put that in there.
Yeah.
So let me add this one thing, sneak this in there, and I promise we'll go to this break. I'm gonna point out 7 guys. We're gonna look at the top 5 because they're all over 50 RBIs, but we got 2 guys right behind them at 49. So I want to show them a little love because they're on the tip of it, and that is Trey Bridges of Grambling State with 49 RBIs, and then Juan Cruz, Alabama State, with 49 RBIs. But top 5, we go to Bryce Hughes, Texas Southern University, with 51. He's tied with his Texas Southern brother, if you would, which is Damian Garcia, who also has 51. Then we get to 54 with Cameron Hill, Grambling State, and then Southern Cardell Thibodeau is with 56 RBIs. So he's getting it done in multiple categories. But guess who's in the mix as well? Living up to the hype, Andre Martinez of Bethune with 57 RBIs. So you're right. When you talk about this, you do talk about a 3-team race, particularly 2 that you got to really look at when you talk about Andre Martinez and Cardell Thibodeau. Boy, it is going to be close. If they can keep up this pace and stick with each other, man, maybe the edge will go to the team, particularly if Bethune-Cookman finds a way to stay at the top of the race. But if Cardell can add up a couple of things and maybe stretch things out, maybe he can make that move and close fast. It's going to be interesting in terms of going down the stretch.
I need to see where Thibodeau bats in the lineup because I know Bryce Hughes batting in that number 2 spot. I mean, for him to have 51 RBIs at the number 2 spot, that's a table setter. That's kind of interesting to see him up that high.
Yeah, good talk. Good baseball talk. Statistics by both of you. Let's take our last break and come back on the other side. We're going to flip it. We're going to see what they're doing on the mound, on the bump, as they like to say. And then we'll maybe ask a question or 2 in terms of some final matches. Let's take our last break and come back on the other side, give you some of that talk, and close it up.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loot machine.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil inside HBCU Sports Lab. Let's stick with some of these stats and let me jump right into this and give you the wins. We'll look at ERA and strikeouts. Starting with the wins, though, at the 5 spot, you got Gary Workman with 6 wins on the season. Jackson State, Eric Gonzalez with 6 wins on the season as well. In the 3rd spot, you have Nick Luckett for Southern, the Jaguars, there with 7 wins. Top 2 spots go through some Wildcats. That's Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, if you didn't know. Tanner Bacabello with 7 is tied with a teammate, Edward Sanchez, who also has 7. So sticking with you, Brian, in terms of these wins, get your thoughts, but I'm going to give you some ERA first. Jafet Martinez of Alabama State has an ERA of 4.18. Sanchez gets below that 4 number, if you would. Edwin Sanchez of the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats at 3.19. Carson Kelly really dips it down a little bit as he's at 3.19 in terms of his ERA. Eric Elliott, 3.11. And then at the top of the ERA standings is Caleb Granger with 2.54. The last one I'll throw in there for a little bit mix of all this is strikeouts. Top 5, if you would, Edwin Sanchez with 61. All these guys over 60 with strikeouts. At number 4, Joel Core, 63. Jorhan LeBoy with 68 is tied with Jackson State's Eric Elliott with 68. Then we have another Jackson State Tiger, Eric Gonzalez. He jumps all the way up to 85, really leading the pack, getting it done there. So Brian wins, ERA, strikeouts, a little bit of mix there. Different folks involved. What are your thoughts in terms of what's taking place on the bump for you?
I will tell you the name that you need to kind of pay attention to in these last 3 series, Carson Kelly. Carson Kelly of Florida A&M. In conference games, right, he has 5 wins, no losses. He also has 3 saves. So he is currently second in the conference in terms of conference game wins, right? Second. And he's also second in saves. So now obviously, his total innings pitch is not as high as some other guys because of the nature of, he's a middle reliever / closer. But, ERA for him, ERA is also 3rd best in the league. So, it'll be interesting to see how does a guy who is not maybe a starter, he's not a starter, but can he garner enough attention? Well, maybe he's become. I got to go double check and see that he's become a starter maybe of late. Okay. But can a guy of Carson Kelly's ilk or his stats, can his stats do enough to push him into a position where he gets a lot of votes and strong consideration for pitcher of the year?
Good stuff. Charles, what say ye?
In terms of the stat that sticks out for me?
Yep.
Well, obviously, I think when you take a look at earned run average, I mean, just from the standpoint, there are 57 guys in this conference batting above 300. So to really hold hitters down, that really jumps out for me. So it's the earned run average, but I always pay attention to opposing a batting average. What in terms of how teams are hitting against them, and that's a stat that jumps out for me. You take a look at Carson Kelly. Teams are batting only 247 against him. Eric Elliott 221. Those are things that really jump out. Bethune-Cookman with their staff. I mean, they got multiple guys. Edwin Sanchez, Joel Core. Teams only hitting 265, 269 against them. So in a hitting conference to keep opposing teams down, that jumps out for me.
Good comments, good stuff there. I like what you're saying. I'm going to do this. I want to go with you, Brian, some of these matchups. I asked Charles about it, so he can jump back in there if he likes. But what's the key matchup for you this weekend? Let me go through them. Southern is in Houston at Texas Southern. You have Alcorn State in Prairie View against Prairie View A&M. Alabama A&M is in Tallahassee against the FAMU Rattlers. Alabama State travels to the beach, Daytona Beach, against Bethune-Cookman. Arkansas Pine Bluff is in Grambling, the Red Sticks, Grambling State. And then Mississippi Valley State goes to Jackson. That is Jackson, Mississippi against Jackson State. What captures your attention about any of these matches, the top 1 or 2, or even 3, and why?
Well, my eyes are focused in on the Alabama State Bethune-Cookman series. I think, like probably all of us, after last week, we had a matchup between the top 6 teams. You know, we had 3 matchups between the top 6 teams. And I thought that was fascinating from a scheduling perspective at that point in the season. Now we get down to the final 9 games of the conference season, and there's hope because of what we've seen out of the fact that UAPB took 2 out of 3 against Bethune. You know, I'm not in their dugout, but I'm hearing word that they may be dealing with some pitching issues in terms of health. You know, so it creates a door. The door is open, and it begins with Alabama State. And just Bethune's schedule is tougher. I mean, honestly, when I look at FAMU's schedule, I think Drew brought this up the other day, that, you know, FAMU's got 8 of the 9 that should be winnable games. You can't quite say that for Bethune. That Alabama State is going to give them a series. They're going to fight them this weekend in every game, and they're going to push them. They're going to push them, and hey, we'll see what happens. I mean, you know, this is how Bethune-Cookman handles adversity. They just lost their first series of the season. How do they rebound from that?
That's good.
I think Coach Hernandez is going to find out a lot about the mettle of his young men this weekend against Alabama State. Fascinating matchup.
Great point. Charles, I know you talked about this, but any final thoughts that you wanted to provide?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, you know, Alabama State, Bethune-Cookman, and Grambling and Pine Bluff, those are the marquee series this weekend. But when you take a look at the standings and you talk about Jackson State, Southern, Prairie View, 6, 7, 8, as we go down the stretch here, none of these teams can really afford, you know, to give up series, to give up games. And I think when you take a look at least this weekend, you know, you got to give the edge to Prairie View in terms of playing Alcorn at home. You would think that they not just should win the series, but they should sweep the series. You can't say the same with Southern and Texas Southern in terms of taking a look at what Southern is. So they're kind of in a precarious situation. I would give the edge to Jackson State playing Mississippi Valley over the weekend in terms of not just the series win, but going for the sweep. Impressive win yesterday, Jackson State over University of New Orleans. But this is one of those weekends where Southern, they can't cede ground to Jackson State and Prairie View.
Good points. To your point, you have Arkansas Pine Bluff sitting at 11-7, essentially in that 6th spot right now. Jackson State at 11-10, Southern at 10-11, Prairie View at 7-11, and Mississippi Valley is 6-15. What you got to stick out with is that Arkansas Pine Bluff and Prairie View series was canceled due to weather. So you have a little oddity in the ball games there. I was going to jump out here and say, hey, it's early, first inning. Dillard was up on Talladega 1-0, but then, you know, bottom. And as I looked at it, I looked up and Talladega had a runner on first and second. Well, guess what? They have runners on first and third now, but that's after they pull in 2 runs. So they lead in bottom of the first. 2-1. I was like, okay, maybe
the
not
bottom fell out for Dillard, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Already.
Yeah.
It's just
Doc, keep an eye on the weather this weekend in Houston. I know we got a storm coming through tomorrow, 80% chance tomorrow. So they moved up the Texas Southern game, I believe, to 12. So, you know, let's see what the weather does and how it will stretch the pitching staff over the weekend.
Yeah, it's smart to try to get at least that one in early and see if you can push the other ones back after rain. So we'll be interested to see, can they get in games on Saturday? Will they have to push them to Sunday and maybe do the double header format? So thanks for sharing that. Good points being made there. And what's fascinating when you think about that, Prairie is a little further out, but some of that weather may travel that way. They can't afford not to get more games in. So be interested to see how that goes. Well, last update, it is 3-1 in that contest. And now Talladega, the Tornadoes have runners on second and third. It's still the bottom of the first. With that being said, thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share your podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab. Pull that back up. G-Boom made a comment about Prairie View Southern. Move to Sunday and Monday. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Okay. In there. Sunday and Monday, to the points that you were just talking about, Charles. Getting that in. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop. Appreciate that good work, G-Boom. He does a lot of our stat work as well as social media platforms. So thank you for all the work you do, Holly, with that, G-Boom. Holly is a lot of people like to refer to him as well. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop and Brian Fulford every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. And that will do it for the week. So we look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab, give you some updates and see how this rain playing the thing, see about some of those key matchups. Brian and Charles both say they got their eyes over there at Daytona Beach. So we'll see what kind of beach party teams might have this week. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. Facebook and Instagram, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, and on Facebook and YouTube. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. I was going to give the Capitals a little love and talk about the Capitol Beach Party, but that's the one in Galveston that no longer exists. We're talking about a different one over there. Maybe we'll give some love with the Black Bikers Weekend. Is that what it is? Anyway, That being said, we'll talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Brian?
Lecture.
Dismiss.